World War II, the most cataclysmic event of the 20th century, changed the face of the globe in ways that still resonate today. From 1939 to 1945, nearly all the world's nations, including the great powers, were drawn into this conflict, forming two opposing military alliances, the Allies and the Axis. This was a total war, a war that blurred the lines between civilian and military resources, a war in which the world's nations poured all their economic, industrial, and scientific capabilities. The war began on a fateful day, the 1st of September in 1939. Adolf Hitler's Nazi Germany invaded Poland, an act of aggression that would not stand unchallenged. The United Kingdom and France declared war on Germany just 2 days later, on the 3rd of September. Under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, signed in August 1939, Germany and the Soviet Union had partitioned Poland and marked out their spheres of influence across Eastern Europe. This marked the beginning of a series of campaigns and treaties that saw Germany conquer or control much of continental Europe, forming a military alliance known as the Axis with Italy, Japan, and other countries. The war expanded in scope from late 1939 to early 1941. Moving into North and East Africa and resulting in the fall of France in mid-1940. The conflict then primarily raged between the European Axis powers and the British Empire, with the war in the Balkans, the aerial battle of Britain, the Blitz of the UK, and the Battle of the Atlantic. In June 1941, the war took a dramatic turn. Germany led the European Axis powers in an invasion of the Soviet Union, opening up the Eastern Front, the largest land theater of war in history. It's important to remember that World War II was not just a war of soldiers and tanks. It was a war of economies, a war of resources, and above all, a war of people. It was a war that saw the strategic bombing of population centers and the use of the only 2 nuclear weapons ever used in conflict. It was a war that resulted in between 70 and 85 million fatalities, the deadliest conflict in human history. This war saw millions die due to genocides, including the Holocaust, as well as starvation, massacres, and disease. In the wake of the Axis defeat, Germany, Austria, and Japan were occupied, and war crime tribunals were conducted against German and Japanese leaders. This all-encompassing war was sparked by a multitude of factors, including the rise of fascism in Europe, the Spanish Civil War, the Second Sino-Japanese War, Soviet-Japanese border conflicts, and tensions in the aftermath of World War I. World War II was a dark chapter in our history, but it's a chapter we must remember. It's a chapter that holds lessons for us today, and it's a chapter that changed the world in ways that are still being felt. As we look back on this conflict, it's important to remember not just the battles and the leaders, but also the ordinary people whose lives were forever changed by this war.